Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. Today we're here to jump right into this thing with a mailbag. We love mailbag. Mailbag is actually, Nick and I have talked about this a bunch, but it might be our favorite thing to do, the mailbag. We get to hear your questions. We get to answer them. There's always some unbelievably thoughtful questions involved in the mailbag. Never enough of the fun ones that I want. I want fun stuff asking us about pop culture, food, entertainment, but nobody cares about that stuff but me. So I totally understand it. But before we get to that, we want to wrap up and clean up some news. It's Thursday when we are recording this. The Giants are playing their second preseason game on Saturday. As a reminder, both Nick and I have things going on this weekend. I will be watching the game, as will Nick, but we will not be recording after the game. We will be waiting to get the tape back on the game like we did last week, and we will do a film review of the game. So that's the plan for this weekend's content. Now, the news that we have to clean up, we'll start with the first one. It's the Tyrone Tracy scare, Nick. This one is funny for me because I was at an event on Tuesday in the city for CBS. It's an NFL Today, CBS NFL Today summit. They do it every year. And so just to do a quick humble brag, I got to meet some cool people. I've met these guys before, but I finally got to meet JJ Watt, and I got to talk to him about Wisconsin because JJ was there when I was there, and we discussed the TCU Rose Bowl game and just how. And I brought a question to him, and it felt like I was talking his language. Because at first I came up to him, and he's a little skeptical. There are a lot of people coming up to JJ Watt. And by the way, these dudes are massive, man. JJ Watt looks like an alien almost to a normal human being when he's just walking around at a bar, and that's where we were. And Matt Ryan, all these dudes are massive human beings. Even though they're skinny now, Matt Ryan. He's tall. He's 6'5". You don't see people like that every day. So anyway, I talked to JJ, skeptical at first, and then I was I'm speaking his language. Because it makes sense. We played TCU, dude, and it took us to the fourth quarter to run power gap behind John Clay. And then we just went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and on the 2-point conversion, ran a passing play that got batted down at the line of scrimmage. Run the damn ball. You're Wisconsin. What were they doing? And JJ told me that was the first time he's ever cried during a game. He was so sad to lose that game. And so were we. We went out to the Rose Bowl, me and my friends, to watch the Wisconsin, one of the biggest losses, I think, of my lifetime as a Badgers fan. So anyway, it was fun. But the point being, I was at this event, and on my phone, breaking news, I'm not even supposed to be checking my phone, Nick, Tyrone Tracy carted off, Aircast. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Because I'm so excited about this kid. I really believe he could be potentially the most effective running back on the Giants this year. Not to say Devin Singletary won't have his role, but Tracy could add something different, in my opinion, especially if they use him in the pass game like he's capable of. And then obviously it turns out to be just a low ankle sprain. So just a wild swing of emotions for me.
It was the huge swing of emotions, roller coaster. And then all Giants fans are celebrating, oh, thank God it's only an ankle sprain. And I think Monty tweeted somebody who was oh, thankfully it's only an ankle sprain. Could you imagine seeing that, but not seeing what we expected beforehand, not seeing the fact that we all thought this guy was going to lose out on his entire rookie season. So hopefully he'll be back healthy and ready to go. But it's safe to say, Dan, you were a full 3.9 inches when you were talking to JJ Watt, and then you just went down when you saw that Tyrone.
Yes, exactly. It was a total swing of emotions for me. And yeah, man. So that was great to hear. I guess, right. It's still not great. We don't want Tyrone Tracy missing any time, but considering what it could have been, that was great to hear.
And I think your analysis on him is spot on. He could have such an impactful and important role on this offense, being this chess piece that Brian Dable can move around outside the numbers, back in the backfield, doing whatever you really want to do with his type of skill set and his ability to make people miss in these really tight spaces, as well as the explosiveness and the long speed, can really do wonders for this offense if he's employed correctly. So hopefully he can be back and ready sometime early in the season.
Yeah, yards after contact too. We saw the contact balance in the first preseason game. We saw decisive style. We saw him really natural running from under center, something he hadn't done a lot. And that doesn't even talk about the passing game stuff. We haven't seen that yet. And that could be really, really effective, especially for an offense that kind of needs that type of a few of these kind of easy solutions, I would say, for where they're at from a standpoint of where the offense is at in the passing game. They haven't had many solutions, let alone easy solutions in the last 3, 4, 5 years. So let's just get some solutions going.
And if we want to reflect back on just the week 1 tape when preseason week 1 tape when Malik Nabers was out there, what did the Lions do? They rolled too high several different times. Defenses are going to do that, and you have a safety valve like Tyrone Tracy. Get him the ball in the flat. It's going to be him and a cornerback with 5 yards difference. He's going to make that guy miss, say, a decent amount of time, right? And then what is that going to do? You're going to roll safeties down and possibly set up some more opportunities for for explosive plays down the field if the Giants are able to nickel and dime teams because of the two high shells that they're playing to stop the explosive nature of Malik Nabers. So it just gives the New York Giants more options with their passing attack.
Without a doubt. And some people might sit here and say, oh, why are you guys so excited about a 5th round player? And it's like, well, just look at NFL history. Talent comes from the 5th round at the running back position. Big plays come from the 5th round at the running back position, 5th and later. Ahmad Bradshaw. Isaiah Pacheco right now is one of the most effective running backs in the NFL when I watch him on film. He was a 7th round draft pick. This is the nature of the position. You can find talent later in the draft. And I think the Giants have located and found talent now. You could also say, and this one's fair, how could you say that without him playing yet? Yeah. And I could just say it's a projection. And I feel very good about this projection, and we'll see what happens there. A few other news items to clean up on. The Giants traded Jordan Phillips to the Dallas Cowboys, a weird interdivision trade. I can't even remember the last time the Giants have traded with the Cowboys overall. I feel like the last NFC East trade the Giants made, I was thinking about this, Nick, when I saw this news. I can't remember. It feels in my head like it was something with the Washington Commanders or whatever they weren't called that then. But I can't remember the last time the Giants made an interdivision trade, and I don't even think it was. So I don't even know, like, if it was the Commanders thing. I don't know when that was. But look, from the Giants' standpoint, Jordan Phillips has gotten jumped on the depth chart. You said it best. Like you called this a week or two ago at camp. Like, he just wasn't playing a lot. He wasn't practicing.
Never saw him out there, man.
Yeah, never saw him out there. Something weird was going on with Jordan Phillips. It's a little disappointing to me just from I thought Jordan Phillips could be good for the Giants, but I guess something was happening there. And maybe it is just a testament to what the Giants have behind him. Like, what does it say for guys like Elijah Chapman?
I think it says a lot for Elijah Chapman, who's a different skill set than Jordan Phillips, more so also for DJ Davidson and Jordan Riley. And there just wasn't a spot for this type of veteran on the roster. So the Giants wanted to roll with these younger players who show a lot of promise. Makes sense. The Giants also released Jalen Mills, who hasn't seen any training camp because of the calf injury. I believe he's healthy now, so he can go and pursue other opportunities. Best of luck to him. But in doing so, releasing Jalen Mills, trading Jordan Phillips for the 6-7 swap in 2026. The Giants opened up 2 roster spots and they signed 2 safeties, Jonathan Sutherland, who was a safety at Penn State for like 5 seasons, and Raheem Lane, who was teammates with Micah McFadden and Ryder Anderson at Indiana. He was at UDFA, I think, in 2022, tore his ACL last year, was mostly a special teams player. But both of these players suffered injuries early in their careers, and now they're on the rebound. Now, they're basically just going to be eating up second, third team reps in training camp, but they're going to be able to put their skill set on tape over these next 2 preseason games. And they can showcase, hey, maybe I am good enough to make this roster, especially if they do have special teams value. So they have an opportunity ahead of them, and let's see if they can do anything with it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And just to recap a little bit, the Giants did a 6-7 round pick swap in 2026 with the Cowboys. So just kind of gave themselves a little bit of better draft capital coming up. All right, let's get right into the mailbag, Nick, without further ado, cleaning up there. We'll start with Sal from Queens. Our boy Sal from Queens, he says, you're Joe Shane. Put yourself in the sense of being Joe Shane, and you're looking for a defensive lineman on cutdown day to add to the Giants' room, maybe to compete for a starting job or in that rotation. What trait are you prioritizing more, run stopping and block eating, or pure pass rush ability?
We've brought this up several times, Dan. We want that 3 technique with the explosive, penetrating nature. We've heard Shane Bowen mention penetration several different times. Now, Elijah Chapman is kind of sliding into that role and saying, hey, I'm on this roster too. I can make this team. And I think he's making a very solid case for himself. So I'm not going to be upset if the Giants go out and sign another 3 technique with that type of ability. You can get upfield quick off the snap. But at the same time, part of me looks at a player, and I'm not saying this because he might be over the hill now, but a player like Foley Fatukasi over the last 5 years, just a true run defender, somebody who can execute their run fits, can eat double team blocks, can play a gap and a half, can do all of everything that you need from a run defense standpoint on a defense that's going to be playing, cover 4, quarters, palms, too high so much. Because what did Shane Bowen say? Shane Bowen said, hey, there's going to be a burden on the linebackers in this system. It's going to be a lot falling on Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden, possibly Deontay Johnson if he can get healthy and get back out there. So you need these defensive players to eat up these blockers to allow the linebackers to have an easier access to their specific run fits to make the stops, to make the tackles for a loss. So part of me also thinks, hey, man, I would love to get like an elite run defender. I just don't know if one of those guys is going to be available upon final cuts.
Yeah, I think you nailed that pretty much. I don't have too much more to add, but I would agree. If I had to pick one, which is the question, I would prioritize the ability to penetrate, and something that Shane Bowen mentioned in Hard Knocks really stuck with me from that standpoint. I also just think ultimately they're going to rely on this front to make their way for basically to be the defense, not just in the run game like you broke down, but in the pass game. Like on a lot of it's going to look a lot different than what we saw with Wink Martindale from that standpoint. So I would like to get a few more guys in there, or one more guy in there who can help in that regard. All right, Giants report one, asks, in camp, I saw a lot more pin and pull than I remember seeing in past years. Brian Daboll has always ran a variety of concepts, but I feel like that and duo have been more frequently used. Are you seeing the same thing?
I think the Giants have used pin pull a decent amount over the first 2 years with Brian Daboll. So I don't believe, from what I've seen at camp, it's been a huge focus on that. Now, I wasn't at camp those previous 2 years. Maybe from a camp perspective, that's possible. But on Sunday, you saw a decent amount of pin pull. If you go back to 2022, there was a lot of that. Last year, wasn't as much of it to Andrew Thomas's side, getting Andrew Thomas in space because Andrew Thomas had the injury he dealt with. But you still saw pin pull concepts. I still think it's going to be a part of this system. But you're also seeing a ton of halfbacks. And you're seeing a very diverse, a variety of rushing attempts from Brian Daboll in this offense. And that's what I really want to see, because I think it just unlocks, and he explained this on a Zoom recently, it just unlocks so many different avenues to how you can punish certain defensive fronts and how you can gain an edge in the rushing attack and the passing attack, because then you can marry your passing game to certain rushing styles as well.
Yeah, I think you broke this down really well. We saw more of it in 2022 than 2023, but I will say that a big factor, as you mentioned, was the Andrew Thomas injury. Now he's fully healthy. He's moving well in the run game. John Michael Schmitz is a player that I think can be utilized a lot. This could be better for his skill set, in my mind, at least in the passing game, screen game, and in the run game. Something I want to see more of this year. We'll see if that happens. But agreed, it's kind of been a big part of their nature. Quick bit of breaking news, Nick. The Giants just signed running back Joshua Kelley, formerly of the Chargers, and waived Elijah Riley, the safety. Giants been doing a ton of moves in the secondary with these back-end guys, and now they bring in a body to help them with Tyrone Tracy as he comes back from that low ankle sprain.
The Giants signed 2 safeties, and it wasn't just because of Jordan Mills. They're also getting rid of Elijah Riley, who has been dealing with, I think he had a concussion maybe a week or so ago. And they also brought in that running back last week. We talked about Lingard. So now you have another running back, which makes sense because Tyrone Tracy's out. Dante Miller is hobbled with the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Joshua Kelley, man, he was a solid player for the Chargers, I think, early on. And when he was coming out of college, there was some buzz surrounding him. I believe he went to UCLA. Yeah, he's a UCLA kid, but it's kind of been a little bit since the last couple of years, it's been a little bit like up and down and not all that impressive. I think I'm pulling up his stats right as we speak. Average on his career, 3.6 yards per carry, had 405 yards on 107 carries last year, 2 touchdowns when Austin Eckler was dealing with his injury. But I think overall it was a little bit disappointing so far through his career. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. I don't think he's going to be here for long. I think this is a camp body for now, as the Giants need somebody to take reps with these injuries at the running back position.
One more bit of news, too. Not as breaking, but breaking enough. Daboll said that Malik Nabers will practice today on Thursday.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
I'm not sure if he'll play. Maybe he will, but it's a good sign that he's practicing 2 days before a game.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Nick. I'm kind of torn on this one as far as will he play and should he play. One side, I'm like, well, I really want to see him develop that rapport with Daniel Jones. And obviously I would have zero interest in him playing any snaps once Jones is out of the game. But do I want him on the field for those Jones snaps? On one side, yeah. But the other side, I'm kind of just like, you know what? Bubble wrap this guy until the regular season, at least from a preseason standpoint. Training camp, have him practice, whatever. You're hopefully not gonna get hit. But you get injured at any point, dude. Like Josh Downs got injured in Colts training camp when he got undercut and landed wrong on his ankle. Like shit happens. So it's like the risk is there regardless. So I almost feel like I would lean toward him, wanting him to play in this preseason game, though. Knowing Daboll, I highly doubt he will.
Yeah, let's let those other guys develop a rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's move on to Messy Mamba 6123. Says, first, I just want to say I've been listening to you guys for a few years now, and you're not just the best Giants podcast I listen to, but the best podcast full stop. Well, Messy Mamba 6123, we really appreciate that. My question is, when do you guys think the Giants offense will be top 10 in the league in scoring? And when will we have a top 10 offensive line as well? I correlate those stats to being a consistent contender in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and thank you for the question. And by the way, we're going to do our best to get. It was crazy. Nick and I asked for mailbag questions like 2 hours ago, and we've already have like 6 pages worth in our doc. So we'll probably do a two-parter. So this will be another one coming up if we miss your question. But we wanted to prioritize some of the YouTube questions first, so we put those first. And this one comes from YouTube. So I agree with you first and foremost, that those are two things that correlate to being a consistent contender: having a top 10 offensive line and being top 10 in scoring. But where that comes from in my mind in today's modern NFL is really the passing game. So to answer your question, when will they be? It depends when the passing game takes the jump that they need to take. I think they've taken a big step forward toward that by drafting Malik Nabers. He is a difference-making talent, one of the best prospects I've ever studied at the wide receiver position, and he could be a big factor in if this offense becomes, like you said, top 10 scoring. Now, there's other factors in play. Daniel Jones, who's the quarterback right now, needs to take a big jump. That's the only way to say this. You could say he's already taken the jump or he will take the jump now that he has Nabers, but he needs to take the jump. The ball needs to get out of his hands faster in games. He has to deal with pressure better. He has to have a better pocket feel. All the things, ball placement, leading the receiver, throwing with anticipation, all these things need to take a big jump. What we saw in the Vikings playoff game, that needs to happen more consistently. We need that 10, 12, 13, 14 games a year for the Giants to really become a consistent offense. So I think they need to make the jump on the offensive line. I think they need to make the jump at quarterback. The players currently on the roster can make that jump. Lumor, John Michael Schmitz, Evan Neal, Daniel Jones. These are players that could take a jump, and that could make the difference. That's how I see it, Nick.
Yeah, I see it the same way. We need that jump from the quarterback position, and he is in a better situation than he's ever found himself in the NFL by far, with a functional, hopefully, if they could stay healthy, offensive line and a star receiver that he has not had since he's entered the NFL. So hopefully we could see a significant jump. I mean, in 2022, I think the Giants offense was 15th in points for. So we would need better than 2022 stats, which I think is doable with this group and with this schedule. But does that mean it will happen? That remains to be seen. I mean, anything has to be better than last season, right? And they still ended up winning 6 games somehow.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, it's early to say, but I really do believe Daniel Jones could have his best statistical season of his career. And he has the best setup he's ever had. So,
and dude, you know me, man, I'm not going to blow smoke about Daniel Jones, but I think this has been one of his stronger camps. Now, this is a camp I'm at, so maybe I am a little bit biased. I paid really close attention to all those other camps. And we remember his 2022 camp. It was a nightmare against Wink Martindale. But in this camp, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, but he's striking downfield with, I would say, consistency. And other than those first couple practices where he was underthrowing the ball, it's been pretty solid, where he's finding Hyatt deep and he is finding Nabers deep. And that is definitely a positive takeaway as preseason and training camp progresses.
Yeah, he did have a really good camp last year, though. I don't want to. I know you know that, but I don't want to.
But the camp last year, man, the way it was run, it was ran with kid gloves. It wasn't really a physical camp, and it just seemed like the Giants were doing everything in their power to prevent injuries because they brought in guys like Darren Waller, and they were just kind of being very cautious. And then once the season came, they just got punched right in the mouth and didn't even seem like they were ready to fight, because I think the training camp was just very mild because of the cautious nature, because they didn't want to get injured.
Yeah, for sure. And so we'll have to see if the training camp translates. We hope it will. Kev Extreme asked, do you think Kay Adams will finally confess her love for bearded Daniel Jones after he wins comeback player of the year?
That would be awesome for Daniel Jones. I would love to see Daniel Jones react to that, because he is so, oh geez, like, oh golly gee, whenever he's in an interview with her. It's pretty funny to watch.
Yeah, I mean, look, she was just stumbling on her words talking to Daniel Jones. But it's Kay Adams, guys. Let's be honest. Like, she's let's just call a spade. She's not short for suitors here. Okay, I'm sure she can get whatever the F she wants at any time. Though she was into Shams. Remember that when she was all over Shams? Do you know that, Nick? That was
I've seen that like floating around Twitter.
I feel like Shams fumbled that bag. I'm just gonna be honest, Shams. Like, no offense, bro.
You don't know what the guy has got going on. Maybe he's got a girl.
I don't know what the guy's got going on. We're talking about Kay Adams here. Like,
hey,
let's call a spade again. Like, just like as elite as it gets, and she's rich, so it doesn't get much better than that. But this is not what the Big Blue Banter podcast is about, talking about this kind of stuff. So let's move forward to the next one. Christopher Steffen. Dan, question for the mailbag today. 10 personnel is being ignored by most offensive coordinators in the NFL. Hardly anyone plays more than 2% of their offensive snaps using 10 personnel. Why do you think that is? You can create an epic matchup, as most linebackers won't be able to defend speedy slot receivers. And with the Giants' luck at quality wide receivers this year, do you see Dable using 10 personnel? I know it's not what he usually runs, but imagine Nabers, Hyatt, Wandle, and Slayton on the field at the same time.
The main reason why is because pass protection. You're in 5-man pass protection, and the defense knows you're going to be in 5-man pass protection, so they can just do whatever they want. So you really need a stable offensive line. A quarterback can get rid of the football very quickly, to not have a tight end or a running back to assist when you're blocking against guys like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. So it's a precarious situation when teams go into 10 personnel a lot, because defenses know that they can blitz. They know that they have one-on-one matches. They can just do so many creative things to take advantage of your protection package.
Yeah, great question. I think Nick nailed why you don't see it as much. And think about it like this, like why teams love to run 12, why coaches love to run 12 personnel, for example, even though they know, by the numbers, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage versus 11 personnel. You have a better chance to move the ball with 11 personnel on the field. 12 personnel gives these play callers uncertainty and unpredictability. Like they can put those guys on the field and the defense cannot key in on run versus pass. And that should, in theory, give you the best chance to move the football, which is why we see, some of the best coaches, Kyle Shanahan, use a fullback, like for these reasons. But I will say this, Brian Daboll in Buffalo used 10 personnel more than most coaches. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember that his seasons with Buffalo, he was not afraid to use 10 personnel. So I think while we won't see too much of it, the Giants will use it at times this year.
And if you do use it, you want to usually spread it out, right?
Yeah.
And you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, somebody who is very mobile, who can evade rushers, evade blitzers, and then you have everybody else spread out. So then Josh Allen can pick up some yards with 7 to 8 yards if it is a broken play, because the defense decides to bring the house. Charles, am I saying that correctly? I'm not really sure. He asks, do you see Jermaine Lumor as a stopgap before drafting his replacement sooner rather than later, or as a long-term solution at the right tackle spot?
It's a really good question. I think there's a possibility that Lumor will not be a stopgap, despite the fact that they signed him to a 2-year deal. Because we heard during Hard Knocks, the 2-year deal was more on Jermaine Lumor and his agent's end. He wanted to do a 2-year, let me establish myself, and then I'll get another chance at a contract. And he's young enough where this could be a long-term solution at right tackle. There's no reason it can't. Look, when the Giants signed Kareem McKenzie, he was obviously a better prospect to begin with and had more of a decorated career, but he was an older player when they signed him from the Jets, and he became a stalwart, retired, played the rest of his career with the Giants. Lumor is not Kareem McKenzie, but Lumor could ultimately prove to be a top 15, maybe even top 10 in this system right tackle for the Giants. It's not out of the realm. He was one of those 15 best players at the position last year, consistent and still not that old. So I think it's possible they could. And how good would that be, Nick, for them to find a long-term solution at the tackle position without having to use draft capital, considering all the draft capital they have used to find long-term solutions, Eric Flowers, Evan Neal, top 7, top 10, and to get it that way, it would be amazing.
It would be. He's 29 years old right now, and he's looking for
a little older than I thought he was. Yeah.
And I got to say, if you want now, I'm not 100% certain how good he is going to be, right? His career hasn't been consistent trajectory. He had a great season last year, but this is the type of person you want in your locker room. He is somebody who got injured first day of training camp, wanted to go back out there, did not want to miss a training camp practice, because he's never missed a training camp practice in his career. And people gravitate around him. He has a great personality. Those are the types of players you do want to add to your roster, especially when they're actually good or functional at football. And I believe he's functional is his floor. Functionality is Jermaine Lumor's floor right now. And I think we can get a little bit more than that. I think we can get above average right tackle play from him. And at this point, that would be an absolute grand slam for the Giants.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to enter a parallel universe or go through some elaborate labyrinth just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. It's easy to switch to. The website has a good interface. I have a couple buddies who have recommended this to me. They speak highly of Mint Mobile. Get started, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That is 3 Bs. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. Plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That's mintmobile.com/BBB. 3Bs, Triple B. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/BBB. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
You ever feel sluggish or out of focus? Are you stressed? Has your digestive system caused discomfort or flatulence like a certain co-host on this podcast during a live stream? If so, you should check out AG1. When I started drinking AG1 daily, I could feel a real difference in my daily health. I had more energy, I was better off at the gym, and I could focus on my work in a much more efficient manner. That's because AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. Not only did I replace my multivitamin with AG1, but I love that every scoop also includes prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. I recommend AG1 to all my family and friends because AG1 has a team of doctors and scientists that formulate around the latest science and maintains high quality standards within the industry. Even my friends have started drinking AG1, and they always tell me how energetic they feel and how it's helped them out at the gym, and also it's helped them manage their stress levels. That's why we're happy to have AG1 as our partner. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs when you first subscribe. Go to drinkag1.com/banter. That's drinkag1.com/banter to check it out. Our mental and physical well-being is of the utmost importance. Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all need to take that very seriously. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Big Blue Banter podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New York, New Jersey, Arizona, if you will, or hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/banter to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/banter. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment. And before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, include EE System.
Without a doubt. Kenny G. Leviathan asks, I think that's Leviathan. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you nailed that.
Okay, nice.
Gotta slay the Leviathan from within, bro.
Anytime I see the word Leviathan or read it, I just think of that Nas lyric, deep like Leviathan. Now let me try again. Okay, anyway, with Evan Neal returning from the PUP list, the PUP, and not given the starting job back at right tackle, do you think they will actually start cross-training him at guard, or will they continue to just train him at tackle?
I think they'll cross-train him, yes. He's getting second-team tackle reps as of right now, but I believe he will eventually, and injuries could happen on the interior. Look, he has a background playing offensive guard at a high level, Power 5, freshman year at Alabama. So, right. Yeah, I think they will eventually train him. But I don't think they're sold on who their swing tackle is at this moment either. And I think that's a big problem on this roster. And they would like Evan Neal to develop as a tackle if Jermaine Lumor is not a long-term option. So put him there. That's where he has been comfortable, see how he is, and then evaluate day by day. But I would imagine he would get kicked inside eventually for some reps to get cross-trained.
Seems like they would like Josh Azudu to be that guy, but no matter how much they would like that to be the case, Nick, I don't know if they can that actually can be the case for swing tackle. But it is interesting to me. I mean, man, Evan Neal, like you just said, thrown right into the fire, freshman, guard in a Power 5 conference and holds his own and probably ultimately plays well. And now we're fast forwarding years later and he can't even, be a starting tackle at the NFL or hasn't been proven to be able to in the first 2 years. It's really just a wild situation there for the Giants there. But Enzo Baldanza asks, it seems like the fan base has soured on DJ Davidson. I thought the consensus was that he had flashed last year, especially early in the year. Why is he all of a sudden on the roster bubble? Did I misinterpret his sophomore season?
No, I don't think you misinterpreted his sophomore season. I just think he got injured his entire rookie year, almost, right? I think he played in like 5 games. Last year, he didn't really make a splash. And now you're hearing names like Elijah Chapman pop up. You're hearing Jordan Riley show up to camp in excellent shape. So those players who are depth pieces are garnering, and Ryder Anderson are garnering a lot more attention than DJ Davidson. So that's why. And I think people are just like looking at him like, oh, what have you done? Well, he hasn't had too much opportunity to do all that much because he was playing behind Dexter Lawrence and behind Leonard Williams, and he was hurt. So last year he was also coming back from an injury. I believe he'll make the team, especially now that Jordan Phillips has been traded. And I think he is a valuable player from a depth standpoint. But I don't blame people for also being a little bit frustrated at the same time. A lot of those players from that 2022 draft class, they haven't shown all that much. Other than Kayvon Thibodeau at this point, you have Daniel Bellinger and Micah McFadden and Dane Belton. I would throw him in there. But the Cordell Flotts, the Josh Azudus, and the DJ Davidsons haven't really shown all that much. And I think, generally speaking, after 2 seasons, their fan bases, their patience is wearing thin. But I think he would be a solid rotational piece on this defensive front.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what happens there. I would say my patience, Nick, runs more thin with the premium draft capital picks in 2022 that haven't played. These late round day 3s, I don't have much expectation for to begin with.
Exactly. What do we have next here? Coin Boy, would you bet money that Nabers wins Offensive Rookie of the Year? And do you think he's undervalued in most fantasy leagues? Dan?
First question, no. I think you'd be throwing your money out to bet Malik Nabers Offensive Rookie of the Year. It would take an injury or a faceplant for Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels to not win Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's the nature of the NFL. This award is for quarterbacks. Now, Saquon Barkley's won it, but Saquon Barkley won it in a year where those rookie quarterbacks that were very hyped all seem to fall flat on their face or just not be good enough. If you believe that's going to happen with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix I think is also potentially going to start. Not that I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Then it's not a bad bet because there's a chance Malik Nabers could outproduce Marvin Harrison, for example, and some of these other rookie wide receivers. And I don't think any of the rookie running backs are going to get this award.
You got to have some serious stones, bro, to bet a lot of money on Malik Nabers Offensive Rookie of the Year when there were 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, right? Like, I'm not saying
he's out for the year and one probably won't play, but still.
He's talented enough, though. That's the thing. He's certainly talented enough, and I'm sure you could probably get solid odds on it, although his hype has been pretty freaking raised through training camp. But yeah, no, that's it's going to be tough with Caleb.
I want to say if he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, the Giants should win 9 or 10 games, but then I'm like, wait a second. Saquon Barkley won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2018. The Giants won 5 games. So that probably isn't even true. As far as the second question goes, he was insanely undervalued in fantasy leagues. That was the case in early July when we were drafting for CDS, in mid-July and August. Not anymore. The one place you still might be able to find some semblance of value is in snake leagues, but I have been in 2 auction drafts already. Both were early. And so even then, you cannot get him because in every auction draft you do, there's at least 2 managers that are going to love Nabers. They're going to bid him up past ADP value, and then they put him into that range of, second-tier receiver pricing wise. So you can't really get value there. Still, he might pay it back. That's the crazy part. He still might pay back no matter what price you end up paying. Like if you take him in round 2 in your snake, or end of round 2, or early round 3, or mid round 3, or late round 3, he could easily pay up to that value off if the touchdowns come. That's the question. Can and if the touchdowns come. The Giants have not thrown passing touchdowns over the last 5 years. There's been no thrown passing touchdowns. I think it probably dates back to 2015, the last time the Giants actually threw passing touchdowns in this offense. Because I know they didn't throw a lot of passing touchdowns 2016 when they made the playoffs. I'm assuming 17 and 18 were pretty similar to that from a passing touchdown total. And they had 1 year, 2019, Jones threw 24, which, is still not a lot of passing touchdowns.
Not that much, though.
No, it's not a lot. 35.
It's very good for a rookie.
Good for a rookie, but like the Giants, I'm just saying, regardless of the situation, just don't throw a lot of passing touchdowns. So like for Nabers to actually pay that fantasy value off, this is the thing people aren't realizing when they're really steaming them up in these auction drafts. Like Nabers should get a lot of receptions. He should get a lot of targets. He should get a lot of yards. But if the touchdowns are down in the 4 or 5 range, that's when he kind of ends up being a bad value if he's at that cost.
Dan, you're talking this much fantasy. I feel like my arm hairs should just grow like crazy. I'm just going to become Adam Azer at this point.
Yeah, really.
Can't believe that dude has hairier arms than I do. It's nuts.
That is a good. Yeah, I think people overrate hairiness to manliness ratio. It doesn't make you a man to have hairy arms. I think Adam Azer proves that true.
I absolutely love it, dude. 35 Robert 16. I hope he hears that. 35 Robert 16 asks, I think there's a decision waiting for the Giants in the draft in April. I'm asking you guys which you'd prefer. Giants are picking top 5. Take blue chip prospects, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, etc., and get a quarterback in day 2 or trade up, or draft a lesser non-blue chip prospect at quarterback. I'm asking because I've been wanting the Giants to draft a quarterback for years. They haven't. Looking ahead to the draft class, if they're picking high, I really don't want a quarterback in the first round and would rather have the elite corner prospect.
It's a great question, Robert. And I'm laughing or I'm smiling because I feel like the way Nick and I just spent like months researching and watching film on these draft prospects. And it feels like that scenario you just presented to us is the exact scenario that Nick and I, at least, now I know not everyone agrees with this, but the way we interpreted the current situation from last draft, like either going to get a non-blue chip quarterback prospect at 6 because the blue chips that we believed were on the board were already gone and no one wanted to trade them from picks 1 through 3, or you're going to get an actual blue chip player at another position. So if it's the scenario again and it plays itself out, there's really no amount of time, or, there's not, you can't have too many occurrences of it where I will go to drafting the lesser blue chip prospect at quarterback, or the lesser non-blue chip prospect quarterback, because that's just not how I believe. That's not how my process goes. I don't draft position to draft position. I know some people believe you have to kind of make some exceptions, or, other guys that may not be blue chips, they believe they are blue chips. And some people have used preseason to take victory laps on this, which I think is a little ill-advised because there's preseason football guys. Remember how dominant Daniel Jones was in preseason, where 5 years later, he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't mean to use him as an example. Everyone's an example of that. There's plenty great preseason quarterbacks because NFL defensive coordinators don't scheme in the preseason. Like, what are we doing here? Like Michael Penix, is he an amazing star because he looked good in a preseason game? Like, come on, guys, we got to settle that in and rein it in. So my answer remains the same, Nick. If they don't have a chance at a quarterback who can be a superstar in the NFL, I'm just not interested in, where do I find my quarterback, Robert? Which is the question you asked. I've been looking to draft a quarterback. This is the NFL, brother. It's hard to get quarterbacks, and you may never get an opportunity for years and years and years, sadly.
Yeah, and so much has to play out with the college football season. There were quarterbacks who were drafted high in this draft that no one was really talking about.
Jane Daniels,
exactly. Joe Burrow back in 2019. So that happens quite often. It's not just for the LSU Tigers. So we have to be patient with that. But yeah, getting a guy like Will Johnson would be absolutely amazing. Like shut down type of corner.
That'd be sick to have Johnson and Deontay Banks with the front that we have. Like the three big guys in the front, Kayvon Burns and Dexter, with Will Johnson and Deontay Banks there, and Nubin, who I think is going to be a really good player.
who will be on his last year.
Who they'll have to figure out with. But we're looking at that point like a really, really good defense, potentially like elite, in my opinion, at that point, if you can get it to that point. Obviously, at that point, though, we would have no idea what would happen at quarterback, because in this scenario, Nick, the Giants are picking like top 3 or 4 or 5 to get a blue chip like Will Johnson, which means this season was horrible and they obviously would cut Daniel Jones. Or it could go the opposite way. Don't even bring up Jones has another season-ending injury, and they can't cut him because they got the $25 million injury guarantee, and now he's on the book for like $50 million against a cap next year. At which point you just have to kind of punt on the 2025 season if you're allocating $50 million to cap to somebody who's like injured and can't even play. At that point, you're just
get used to a lot of cutlets. Everybody get used to a lot.
Can you imagine that?
Garrett Kelley says or asks, any concerns with the development of our players in the secondary? It seems like a ton of resources have been put into the secondary, but outside of Xavier McKinney, no one has really developed. Is it coaching, or is it just the high rate of busts for DBs outside of top picks?
Such a great question here. I don't know necessarily if I could have an answer that I feel 100% confident I'll be right on, but my feel is it's the latter. I just think it's really hard to develop as a defensive back in the NFL. I think it's really hard to play defensive back in the NFL. It's why I don't really like using my second or third round picks at the position. I'm personally rather just find a James Bradbury when you need one in free agency and spend my money there. But, teams like to draft second and third round corners. They also like to draft first round corners that end up being nothing. I look back at some drafts like during draft season, Nick, and I was looking at all these first round corners taken, man, and these early second round corners taken. And a lot of these names are just nothing in the NFL at this point. And that's just the nature of the position. I think it's probably the hardest, if not maybe the second hardest position to play. To me, it's either corner or tight end. In the NFL, it's one of those two. Tight end has more responsibilities, but corner is just such a naturally hard position to play. So I lean there, but I don't know if you think it's more on Jerome Henderson in development. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Nah, I don't think it's more on Jerome Henderson. I'm trying to think who has been like a high draft pick on the New York Giants in the secondary that has busted.
Well,
Flott's the only one that really comes to my mind.
Robinson too, but
Robinson, that's like, again, a very unique case, right? And I look at guys like Jason Pinnock and Dane Belton. I don't consider them flops. I consider them promising young players that the Giants have. Javarius Owens, I'll put him off to the side, but I think he has some talent as well. Tyler Nubin, I'm high on right now. And then Deonte Banks, I'm high on. I don't know what his ceiling is quite yet or where he is going to be, but I'm still high on him as a player. I don't look at Darnay Holmes, who was a 4th round pick a while ago, and say that's a bust there. He's a guy the Giants just brought back. I think they probably expected more from him, but that's still a day 3 pick. So who exactly is this like gigantic bust that Jerome Henderson is guilty of fielding at this point?
Yeah, no one from a high draft capital standpoint, with the exception of Flott, would be the argument there. But I agree with you. I mean,
and personally, like with me, when we chose Flott, I said at the time, I was like, he's young and hopefully he grows into his body. But the 3rd round, I'm like, that's a little rich. I know the Giants had him in for a pre-draft visit, but that seemed very rich at the time, and I still think it is. And the Giants have brought in
the first draft class, right, Nick?
I'm sorry.
That was Shane's first draft class, right?
It was, 2022. It
was a weird year. He just got in. He didn't have his scouts in. Yes. He didn't really have it. And it felt like there were a lot of picks like that in that class, to be honest.
And something tells me that the Giants, like we talked a lot about Sauce Gardner. I'm sure they were very interested in Sauce. I think they would have took Derek Stingley Jr. too. I think they were very interested in Derek Stingley Jr.
Interesting.
Yes. And I think we heard a report about that maybe at some point during that 2022 draft class. And he would have fit too with what Wink Martindale was doing. And he's very talented as well. So, and then they chose his teammate, Cordell Flott. So I'm imagining they probably went to LSU a bunch that year. But I look at Fabian Moreau's, the Nick McLeods, and the players the Giants are just bringing in, and they're functional enough. I think that's a testament to Jerome Henderson. So I don't know. I think DB is tough. I think you really only get like the accolades if you come away with like turnovers, interceptions, and make big plays on like Monday night and Sunday night football. And that just doesn't happen all that much. Like there are guys who make big plays on Monday and Sunday night football. And then like the general NFL fan will look at them and be like, that guy's great. But then you watch his tape. It's like, dude, he's not really that great. He was just very opportunistic. So I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough to play DB.
I'm with you. Michael Farelli asks, I can't believe I'm asking this, but should Darius Slayton and his contract be expendable and used to cut and throw money at a veteran corner who could bolster the secondary?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked too much into Darius Slayton's contract to know the dead money or what exactly would happen with that. I don't want to get rid of Darius Slayton, though. I think Darius Slayton is a very valuable piece to this offense to keep these wide receivers fresh, and he's like the veteran in that room if they don't keep Allen Robinson. And he has a established rapport with Daniel Jones. So no, I don't want to get rid of Darius Slayton.
Darius Slayton ended the 2023 season catching back-to-back games in week 17 and 18.
Yeah, I remember this.
65-yard touchdowns from Tyler.
No, they were 80-yard touchdowns.
80-yard touchdowns. We had like 1 or 2 of those in like 5 years before, then 4 years before that. So like, no, I'm not going to cut the guy who did that personally. Me, and then B, it's like, look, corner like Stephon Gilmore is named a lot, like Adoree Jackson. These guys are going to cost a lot of money. We don't even know if they want to come here and play. They might be waiting for a different kind of opportunity with a contender at this stage of their careers, to be completely honest. And like outside of that, you're not going to find much. Like this is the nature of the position. It's like O-line. There's not a lot of corners just sitting around being waited to be claimed at this point. Like, and it's just how it is. And like, I am less concerned with the corner position than a lot of other Giants fans. I think when the real games happen, the D-line is going to make a lot of plays in the backfield and just get pressure to not allow some of those downfield things to develop for other teams.
Honestly, I'm on the flip side with there. It might be my biggest concern with the Giants, which says a lot at this point. The secondary in general. And the
offense remains my biggest concern.
I'm cautious
otherwise.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. I just think there is a reality that the Giants are able to score some points, like maybe average like 24 points per game, which is really good for the New York Giants, right?
Yeah.
But then their defense is like allowing like 28 to 30 or something because their secondary is so porous. A lot of it does depend on the pass rush. The pass rush can certainly bail out the secondary, but if you suffer an injury to Deonte Banks, I'm like, who is playing cornerback for the Giants at this point? And Deonte Banks isn't even like fully proven to be like, oh, that's a bona fide number one. We think he is, right? We believe he can be, but it's not necessarily proven yet. I think he was trending in that direction, but as we know, development isn't always linear. So it's tough with that secondary, man. There's a lot of youth there.
Joe Freer asks, how do you guys plan on celebrating the next Giants Super Bowl victory?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I want to be with my homies. I want to be with my friends. I want it to happen. You know what, dude? It could happen. I could be dead, anything. Like, it just happened, right? Like, I just want that to occur.
That was morbid.
No, my point is, man, I could be anywhere, right? And as long as it's happening, there will be a glimmer of joy that strikes Nick Filato's dead, lifeless body, or wherever I am, right? Like, so I'm hoping that that could happen. But yeah, no, it'd be ideal to be with my friends and family.
Nick's sitting there willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the New York Giants to win a Super Bowl. I plan on celebrating the next Giants Super Bowl victory the same way I celebrated the last two, with my family. That's how I'm going to watch it again. That's how we watched 07 and 11. There's no other way I would do it than with my immediate family. But though the first time we did it with my extended family, and shout out Ari, he was there. Not all of my extended family, though. I'd like to actually do it with the full extended family the next time it actually happens, whenever that may be. Nick Townshend asks, has the projected first team offensive line actually taken any snaps together in training camp yet? Is there any concern with how quick they can gel together in week one, given week one is fast approaching?
Yeah, so I think they did maybe, or they are going to today, or they did yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever the last time they practiced, because JMS returned to practice, returned to team drills. But that's it, because John Michael Schmitz just got back and Greg Van Roten was just signed like 2 weeks ago. So they have very little experience working together.
Yeah, well, I the way I would answer this, Nick, is I don't know what the projected first choice offensive line is.
I think I have a good bet on it. Now, I think it's going to be Van Roten at right guard over Stinney, and then you have Illuminor, JMS, Runyon, and Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would guess too, but I'm not sold that they don't believe Evan Neal should start this year. I know that's what it seems like for sure right now, but I just remain unsold that. This is Joe Shane's guy. Like, he brought him in the 7th overall pick. That to me, and that matters probably more for other GMs in the past, not just Giant GMs, but like other GMs in general in the NFL really try to make their draft picks work. So maybe Joe Shane is not that kind of guy, and he could put that hubris behind him. But
you're talking about at guard, I'm guessing?
No, at right tackle.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see that happening, but that would be quite the development. And if it did, it's like, dude, if he gives up a sack on the first second down play action, it's like, oh my God, at least we have a Luminor there on the. To me, it seems like a.
No, I think in that scenario, Luminor would just kick back to right guard or left guard, whatever it may be. I don't think Luminor would be moved out of the starting lineup. It would just be Greg Van Roten on the.
No, I know, but I'm saying if Evan Neal right off the bat, if he did get that right tackle, Luminor got kicked inside. It's like, well, Greg Van Roten, get your ass in there. Luminor,
this fan base would be chomping at the bits, ready to just tear his ass up if he made one mistake.
I think we need to slowly bring Evan Neal along right now because we have the options to do so.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I think that's definitely.
No, I know.
Yeah, no, I know. But just to clear up for everybody else, I'm not saying that I think that's definitely their choice. I'm just saying I think it's still a possibility that they do have in mind that he should start this year, and we'll see what happens there. Jeff G asks, "What's your bench press looking like these days, boys?"
Bench press. I haven't bench pressed in a while because I'm at this gym in this apartment complex, so I just use dumbbells and I just do the max of the dumbbells that they have, which is 60 pounds, but it's too easy. So bench press, probably not a lot, to be honest.
Mine's got to be horrible these days, Nick. Once golf season has arrived, I can't find time to lift weights anymore because it always messes. If I'm golfing in a day, or let's even say 2 days, Nick, do I really want to rip up my chest, triceps, and shoulders and then go out there and potentially have it impact my golf game? No, the answer is no, because nothing derives me more happiness than when I play good golf, and nothing gets me more frustrated and angry than when I play bad golf, Nick. So I have to put that first. But I will say this, before golf season, I had changed my whole perspective with lifting weights. Like, I no longer lift heavy weights. I just increased reps. So I just was doing 45, 135, and just repping that out as much as I can, type of thing. Because I tore my, what's it called? Rotator. Like, I had a tear on my right shoulder at one point from lifting too much weights, from basically putting this was like years ago. I had like 2 plates on and a 25, and like I could do
10-pound plates. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 10-pound plates and 25. And I could do it at that point. Like, I got up to a good point at one point, but like, it's worth nothing to me, Nick. Like, I don't care anymore about that. So I don't know why I ever really did.
I've been more running right now. So
you're a big runner. Yeah.
That and lower body exercises.
I don't run. I hate running. I don't know how you people run. It seems so
dude,
boring.
you get like a high from it, dude. I
get highs from other things.
And I also nice. And I also love just the sprints too, you know? Like, I'm over 30 now, so like I want to be doing those like sprints to keep myself active, right? I don't want to be one of those guys who is like can't sprint. Like, that's something that I'm
couldn't
never
agree
gonna
more. Couldn't agree more, but I need a game. So for me, it's like tennis. I'll play tennis and you got short sprints. By the way, I'm gonna put this out on Twitter soon. But anybody listening to the podcast, if you live in the Morristown, New Jersey area, and you're a 4 to 4.5 or even a 5.0 tennis player, I'd like to hit. I'm looking to play more tennis. I don't really have anyone that I play with at this
He's
point.
Good, dude. He's good too.
I'm pretty good, but I'm not that good anymore. Good. But I will get decent again. I gave them a number, like a 4, 5, 5.0.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it's a tennis term. I'm probably closer to 4 to 4.5 at this point, and maybe even down 4. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I would be. Probably 4.5, somewhere in that range. But the only person I can play with right now is my dad, and I love my dad. Shout out Ron Schneider, you might be listening.
Oh boy,
but he's an older guy right now. He's an older man, and so it's not like hitting. No, he's not going to hate this comment. He understands, and we're hitting good. And by the way,
it's the implication. This is full Dennis Reynolds right now. I don't know if you get that reference, but it's the implication.
It's the implication. Yeah, that's the episode we're just talking about. Like, she can't go anywhere. It's the implication. Yeah, that's just the Predator episode.
Yeah, and Mac is like, I don't really know exactly what he's like. You're not getting it. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting it. Dennis Reynolds' character in Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of my favorite characters in television.
So good. But yeah, if you want to, I would love to hit with anybody. So if you're a good enough tennis player, again, 4 to 4.5, I don't want to play with beginners. No offense. I'm sorry. It's just not as fun. I'd love to hit. I live in Morristown, and I'll drive anywhere. I'll drive 20, 25 minutes to hit at night. We'll find courts. There's courts with lights right by me that look really nice that I've been wanting to play. So let's hit. Reach out to me. Hit me up on DM. This has nothing to do with the mailbag. I apologize for wasting everyone else's time, but I need to play more tennis because I had so much fun playing lately, Nick. I fell back in love with the game, and to an extent where I kind of even love it more than golf. And I'll tell you why, Nick, and we'll end it here. But tennis is a sport where I'm generally happy playing. Golf, I'm just angry too much, Nick, because so much can go wrong in golf. It's so unforgiving. So annoying at times, and so unforgiving, and so frustrating. So anyway, back to yes, that's the end of golf talk for today. Back to the business. Here we go. Alex Goggin says, when evaluating the 2022 draft for Joe Schoen, how much do you take in consideration that the 2022 draft was considered by most the weakest draft in years, especially at the top end? And that's in addition because a lot of people came back, returned to college for COVID. Evidenced by the Giants basically begging teams to trade up for those picks. What are your thoughts on that? It's a great question.
We kind of hit on this a little bit before. Also, the Giants were operating with Dave Gettleman's scouting staff. Joe Schoen was operating with those guys. So yes,
that's where you should really put in the sound.
Yeah. Hold on, I got a quicker one. Yeah. So yeah, that was a wet one too. Yeah. I absolutely factor it in, but there were still good players who were selected. I think Joe Schoen went for traits that could be developed by the coaching staff, by Brian Dable's coaching staff. And some of those just haven't worked out. I don't believe Joe Schoen is, it's an indictment on his ability to evaluate talent. I'm not suggesting that. It's just a reality that is going to be a slight demerit on his resume because these guys are not providing value to your roster. And some of them were top 100 picks.
Yeah, I mean,
injuries also factor in too. It's not, there is more nuance with Zudu's case. Like, he's got injured, he's moved around a bunch of different positions. Like, he hasn't had the easiest path to being a successful NFL player because I think the Giants put way too much on his plate with all of the other considerations that they should have factored in to his specific case.
Yeah, you're right, and that's exactly true. And it was a weaker class. We've seen, I mean, there's been hits. Obviously, Garrett Wilson that was drafted right around the Giants. If you go, further back in the draft, you'll find some hits, but It was a weaker class, but in the end, Nick's right. Like ultimately, this is going to define Joe Shane. If Evan Neal turns into a nothing factor, it's going to really hurt their chance to have a ceiling as a football team. You just can't burn 7th overall picks. Like they've done it a lot in franchise history. Eric Flowers, Eli Apple, the list goes on. But it's no coincidence that there's been bad times that have followed after burning those picks. So it's something we'll have to consider. Okay, this is from a friend of the show, Adriana, who, by the way, said she met you, Nick. So that was cool. She
Yeah,
said her
yeah.
experience. Adriana LaFala asks, and you should check out her work, Giants fan and NY Giants fangirl. And by the way, shout out Sal, who we asked, got a question from earlier. Check out his work on He's a Giant podcast. But she asked, Dan, will we see a mustache from you too? We all love a food question, so this is for you both. FMK, which this is a family show, Adriana, so we're not gonna, read that out loud, but people know what FMK is, I hope. And again, it's marry, kill, and then the other one you can kind of assume. Yeah. Wings, pizza, and beer.
Okay.
But let me start with the first question addressed to me. Look, Adriana, it's taken a while to even get anything going from a facial hair standpoint. Let me tell you, I got a beard going. It's pretty solid.
It's solid.
It's not what I want fully. I want this part filled in, and I'm never going to get that. And I don't like the lack of connection with the mustache. So I don't think I can pull it. You see this little in the middle?
It's not that bad, though, bud.
Not that bad, but I feel like if I shaved off all this and just had this mustache, it just wouldn't look that good. Like I'll give it a shot maybe at some point. No, I'm not going to give it a shot. I'm never actually going to give it a shot. It's too risky, and I'm not willing to take that chance, especially because these days when I go full shave, Nick, done it like a year and a half ago. I hate the look. Once you get used to the beard look, you look like such a child. It's just weird. I don't like it at all. Like I don't think it'll ever go away at this point now that I'm used to it. But I would say no would be the answer. The honest answer would be no. I'm not going to go with mustache. Now, as far as the FMK goes, Nick, I'll let you hit yours first.
Yeah, I'm killing beer. Beer is not my thing. If it was whiskey, it would be very, very tough. Very, very tough. I am going to marry pizza, and then I will have intercourse with wings. Someone clip that. Yeah.
Really, seriously, someone should clip that. I saw the editing you did the other day, by the way, with the
inside of me.
Yeah, that was really fun. My answer to the FMK, this isn't not embarrassing to admit, I would say, but just like a reality, and it's not cool. I'm not cool anymore, but I don't really like to drink. I don't like to consume alcohol often anymore. Unfortunately, the Andrew Huberman podcast really ultimately shaped my thoughts on alcohol. I would suggest if you enjoy drinking alcohol and using it in your life, do not listen to this podcast by Andrew Huberman.
If I say something and you don't want to listen, don't listen.
Yeah, that's nice, John Matt. But look, once you and for me, a lot of it was I wasn't sleeping well, and then I retool my sleep, and now it's great. And I think alcohol was a big issue for my lack of sleep and just poor sleep. So I loved beer back in the day, but for now it's an easy kill for me because just it has alcohol in it, and I don't want to. I'll still, by the way, I'm still drinking with friends when we go out, weddings, everything like that, social things, but not around the house randomly. Now as far as the other two go, F and M, I'm definitely marrying pizza. Pizza has a better, there's just less bad pizza out there, especially with where I live in New York, New Jersey. Now, go to other places, man. I've had pizza in Austin, Texas, Nashville, and Wisconsin. Horrible, horrible, horrible across the board. Maybe 1 out of every 5 places you go are decent there from a pizza standpoint. It's really sometimes unfathomable, Nick, how bad pizza can taste in other parts of this country. And I stand by that. I stand by that. I know people hate that take. Not here. On FFT, people hate that. They're like, you're such a New Jersey, New York snob, East Coast. I'm like, all right, I don't care. I'm right. So it doesn't mean I'm not right. The pizza tastes like crap in other places. They have no idea what they're doing. And it really doesn't even taste anything like this pizza. So let's do that. And then obviously we'll F wings, because wings are they're effable for sure. Especially if you get good wings. You could really go to town on those things. Let's go to Joseph Grosso here, who says, I'll do it. Oh, yeah, I love this question. I'll do it. What's your golf handicap these days, Dan? I'll keep this short, but I'm at a 19.3. Really nice. I'm trying to keep that under 20 for the rest of the summer, but I followed up my best golf round ever, luckily with my brother. I like that he got to see it, with my worst ever, a date 1 round later. Which is just why I was saying before, Nick. It's so unforgiving, and it's such an annoying sport. In tennis, that would never happen. If I played good one day and then 5 days later played tennis, I might play worse that day, Nick, but I would never play so considerably worse. And that's just what pisses me off about golf. But at the same time, it's what keeps me coming back. Alec A asks, what are your bold predictions for the Giants this year? Ooh.
Bold prediction? I mean, I don't even know how bold this is with the state of the NFC, but the Giants make the playoffs and they win a playoff game. I think that could be a bold prediction.
Are you predicting that? Are you going with that?
I'm not going to release my final predictions until right before the season.
Okay.
We'll do a show on that. But as of right now, since the state of the Giants and the opinion of the Giants is so low, I think it warrants an answer to this question, saying that the Giants win a playoff game again.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to happen personally,
But
but
very guarded on his bold predictions. I respect, especially because we're going to use it for content. So I'll kind of tend to lean toward that exact type of idea. But one bold prediction I'll have here is that at least 2 of the Giants running backs will average more yards per carry than Saquon Barkley did during the 2023 season. That's one of my bold predictions. So,
ooh, okay, I like that
yeah.
so much better than mine.
Yeah.
So much better than mine. All right, let's go with this then. The Giants offensive line will this is bold. The Giants offensive line will be a top 10 in sacks allowed.
Wow.
In sacks allowed. Yes.
Sacks allowed
Yes.
with Daniel Jones at quarterback?
Yes.
He has one of the worst pressure to sack ratios in the entire NFL of all.
Well, you went bold, so I wanted to go bolder.
Daniel Jones just changes his whole career and becomes a good sack to pressure quarterback. That would be wild to see. That would be amazing if that happened.
I'm so curious to see what he was in 2022. I'm going to look that
His sack to pressure ratio. I am curious that too, because he definitely took a step forward there. I know in Duke it was like one of the worst in the 2019.
Well, the thing was in 2022, it was like the first 5 or 6 weeks was horrible, man. He got sacked so much to where they didn't want to do anything except for run the football against Chicago, right? They didn't even want him taking drop back. Now it's first year in an offense with a bad offensive line and a rookie right tackle, but then it kind of stabilized a little bit, and then the offense just sucked mid-season. Remember, like, just get the football.
Like 3-7-1 for that 10-11 game stretch.
And then they had a nice bit of relief on the schedule with the Colts and the Vikings, and they just kind of blew it up. But yeah, I don't necessarily believe that will happen, but let's run with that. Okay.
Look, I would love to see it. You've seen like the one successful quarterback with a bad sack to pressure ratio is Joe Burrow. But a lot of the list has been just like, guys that haven't improved in that. We'll see what happens though. I hope you're right. If that happens, the Giants, Daniel Jones is going to take a huge step forward if he can improve his sack to pressure ratio. All right. What are your, Jay Dodge asks, what is an acceptable touchdown to interception ratio if Daniel Jones is going to take more shots downfield? When do we get angry with too many interceptions, and when are we fine with the risk? Interesting.
Oh, I'm fine with the risk. Now, I think when you start getting around the 16 interceptions a year, if you're actually being very aggressive and attempting big time throws down the field, you start to be like, all right, because Daniel Jones right now, last season, he had how many interceptions? Last year in 2022, we're going to avoid last year. He had 5 interceptions. 2021, he had 7. He had 10 in 2020, and he had 2019, he had 12. So if you start getting up to like 16, it's like, okay, but if you're actually hitting on your touchdowns, if you have like 30 touchdown passes, I'm not going to mind that much. But if you only have like 20 touchdown passes and you're throwing a lot of interceptions and that ratio is starting to even out, that's where I'm going to have a big problem. So I'm always going to be somebody who advocates for the aggressive play. Like I loved Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck threw a bunch of interceptions. Now, he was a great quarterback, but he threw a ton of interceptions. But I didn't care about those interceptions because he was challenging very tight windows and he had the confidence to do that. And if Daniel Jones can adopt that mindset, he's not going to become Andrew Luck, obviously, but if he can adopt that mindset, it's going to lead to more explosive plays. And I think it will benefit the Giants offense and the whole team, the entire team. So I'm not going to be too much of a stickler as long as those touchdowns are there.
Yeah, it's funny because I think from just like a fan standpoint, Nick, and just an aesthetic standpoint and just what I'm watching on tape, the work we do, I strongly lean toward I would rather watch fun, aggressive quarterbacking than the safe quarterbacking we've had for the last few years. And if it comes with interceptions, it comes. But at the same time, I don't want Daniel Jones to be the first 30-30 guy since Jameis Winston. What I mean by 30-30 is 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Jameis Winston did that in a season once, which is absurd, by the way, Nick. This dude threw 30 interceptions in a year, Jameis Winston. You know how hard that is to do? That's almost 2 picks a game. It's crazy stuff right there. Like, just imagine how that could even happen. But he also threw 30 touchdowns, which is something.
Eli was close in 2013.
What was his
27 interceptions.
Oh, what was his touchdowns?
He had, let me look it up, 18.
So curious. Oh, no, 18-27? He was that bad that year? Oh, my God, Eli. What the fuck was that?
And then the next year, they drafted a receiver in the first round.
Holy shit, I didn't even remember that 18-27 season from Eli. That is brutal. But, yeah, I think to answer your question, Jay, I want him to take the shots downfield, Daniel Jones. I'm ready for it. I'm done with the safe quarterbacking. I know it kind of worked in 2022, but I have skepticism if you could just run that back, because now defenses have taken away the B gap, and that was his big safety valve that season. Scrambling, running the B gap. Most of his good APA came from that, and like it's RPOs, things like that. So I think ultimately take the shots downfield, Jones. Don't worry about the interceptions, and let's go from there.
Bull Bitler asks, what food take do you have that everyone hates? Mine is the only wrong way to eat pizza is no toppings.
Wow.
If you just want cheese, red sauce, and carbs, there's so many better ways than pizza.
That is a terrible take, Bull. I think it's Bull Beitler. Great. You've been a loyal fan for a while, but this is just a horrible take. And you were right. Everyone hates it. I think I hate it. I mean, look, the best pizza, as Dave Portnoy proved, and I think he's right about this, is plain pizza. Like the way to judge for pizzas the way to rank a pizza is you rank their plain. Toppings are great, but you rank their plain. Like I still like topping pizza more probably, but you go by the plain ranking. So totally disagree.
Bull is not ranking them. He's just trying to enjoy them.
But he's saying the wrong way to eat pizza is with no toppings.
Yeah, because he likes toppings.
Okay, but if I have Sally's or any of these places, these Connecticut pizzas, Modern, there's a million great ones. I don't need toppings. It's good as it. Like, no, that is the right way to eat pizza without toppings. The best pizza is without toppings. So I fully disagree with this one, Nick. What's yours? Give me your food take that everyone hates.
I don't really know if I have a strong one that everyone hates. I wish I had more time to look at this, but I make, I think I brought this up. I make cottage cheese ice cream.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good, and you like it. You would like it. Yes, you would, bro. I've sold you on stuff that you said
you sold me on some stuff, some weird eating stuff before that you've been right on. That was unexpected, but cottage cheese, that texture is really.
But when it freezes, man, it just solidifies, and you don't really you don't feel that texture in your mouth unless you let it all just like melt,
Uh-huh. I got a lot of takes that that everyone hates. So I'm ready to spew some off. The first one is buffalo chicken dips. Wow, that was almost bad. Buffalo chicken dip sucks. It just sucks. I don't, and this goes for a lot of
take. That's terrible. Take.
No, it's not a terrible take. And this goes for a lot of things here. Okay, this goes for a lot of things here. Let me just say, throwing block cream cheese in all these dishes is disgusting, and it makes it worse. I don't want this disgust. Put cream cheese. I now see on a Seattle dog, a hot dog with cream cheese on it. Disgusting, just nasty stuff that I don't need. And buffalo chicken dip is just too much cream cheese. Another thing, sour cream sucks. Makes things worse. It's disgusting. If you put sour cream on my burrito at Chipotle, I can't even have any bites.
Coming from somebody who's lactose intolerant.
Disgusting tasting. No, I'm not lactose intolerant. I consider myself. I can eat all. I do and can. I have ice cream all the time, cheese. I just deal with the issues that come from it. Deal with the consequences. That's what it is. Okay, one bad dump in the morning and you're good to go, and that's it. And that's what I deal with. And it's not. So I can still. There are people who are allergic to it, but now sour cream from a taste standpoint, no good. People love that. Buffalo chicken dip, overrated, not that good. What else do we got?
I got one that's that's unpopular. Fried stuff sucks.
What?
Yeah, I don't like fried stuff.
Wow.
I hate the way it makes me feel.
Yeah.
I don't really find it that appetizing. I actually kind of find it a little disgusting.
Okay.
So yeah. Now, if it's lightly fried, I'm talking about deep fried stuff. Is this stuff I don't really like?
Deep fryer.
Yeah. If it's lightly fried, that I don't really have an issue with that at all. But the deep fried stuff, I see people come around with like chicken fingers or onion rings, and it's like greasy, and they touch it, and there's like moisture coming on their face. I think that's disgusting. Right. I just find that repulsive personally.
Oh, I love it. I hate lox. I'm the only Jew in the world who hates lox. I don't like lox.
Yeah.
Don't like the taste at all. That smoky fish taste. I don't like any of the smoky tasting fishes. I think, what else do we got here? I hate lox. That's disgusting. What else? I don't know. I'd have to think more about this, Bull, but I love the question. All right. Giants, CP3 Mans asks, after the Giants, what sports teams are you guys most invested in? Good question.
Yeah, that's easy. For me, it would be the Rangers, New York Rangers. Love the New York Rangers. Love the Knicks, too. And then baseball, I don't really, Yankees, Mets, whatever. Doesn't really matter much. But definitely Knicks and Rangers.
I'll go with the Wisconsin Badgers football and the Wisconsin Badgers basketball as my two teams I'm most invested in after that.
Love that question.
Yeah, great question. It's a fun one. Tree Ninja asks, do you think the Giants should keep Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock if they can only keep two quarterbacks? Does he have more upside potential as a backup by what he showed last year?
I think they're going to try to slip him on the practice squad. And most likely that's going to work out unless there's like some really desperate team that loves Tommy DeVito. They're not going to commit a 53-man roster spot to him. It seems a little unlikely. So they'll probably try to slip him through the practice squad and keep Drew Lock. I don't think they should get rid of Drew Lock unless that injury is more serious than we've been led on to believe.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Nick. I think a lot of this has been, recent, a little bit of recency. I don't want to say bias, but just what we've seen. Like Drew Lock's looked bad in camp. Drew Lock looked bad in the preseason game. Tommy DeVito had a little bit of run last year. I think QB2 should be Drew Lock, and I'm with you on that. I think Tommy DeVito should be a practice squad player. All right, one more, and then we're going to get the rest. There's still like 4 pages or more of this, so we're going to get the rest in future pods, but we're going to do one more, and I want to save one of these, Nick, so I'm going to save that for the next one because it's a good one to lead with, and we'll do this. Ron Shecklin says, the Giants wide receiver corps has been getting a lot of corpse. You read it, how you say it, how you read it. A lot of hype, but I feel like the addition of Nabers just brings them up to a league average unit. Most teams have a legit wide receiver 1. Many have 2. Slayton might be a wide receiver 2, and Wan'Dale and Hyatt seem to me like wide receiver 3s. Is the hype all that warranted? Question mark.
I think it's warranted relative to what the Giants have been working with. And I think they have a bona fide wide receiver 1. And I don't look at it like, hey, this is a wide receiver 3. I look at it like these guys serve specific roles that will allow the Giants to access an offensive output that they have not been able to access for a while because they haven't had the Malik Nabers stud. I think Wan'Dale's that great guy underneath. Hyatt's the field stretcher. I think he can be more than that at this point. And then Slayton, I think, is that wide receiver 2 if you want to use that type of terminology. So I think it has the potential to be much better than a league average unit if all of these guys hit. Will they all hit? And now if the Giants do suffer an injury to one of their top 3, they have a real legit actual starting wide receiver number 4, which they haven't really had as their depth for quite a while. So I'm excited about the wide receiver core. And I'm just really excited that they have that actual focal point who will force defensive coordinators to cloud him and run a lot more cover 2 to allow the offense to run and throw underneath and do all that other stuff that they have not been able to do as efficiently as we would have liked.
Yeah, my answer to this, Ron, would be I really do believe wide receiver may just be the most misunderstood position in the NFL among fans because I think ultimately it's basically, from my standpoint, from what I've seen fans basically say, and even in this question, the way you phrase it, judged on statistics, when in reality, these statistics are reliant on the quarterback. And that's just the reality of the situation. Look around the NFL, do some research, and see how much a wide receiver is dependent on his quarterback. And then you can even look at the Giants case. We have numbers that back this up. The Giants have been very strong in separation rates over the last 2 seasons. Richie James had a good separation rate. Darius Slayton back-to-back good separation rates. Jalen Hyatt can separate. I've seen it in camp. Wan'Dale Robinson is explosive after the catch and is a weapon. He can separate too. We saw it on the game-winning catch against the Green Bay Packers last year. So the stats may not be there, and that's what we'll ultimately judge them on. But, like, I honestly believe, dude, if you put these guys with Burrow and Mahomes, like, the whole perception of the people like, the Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale and Hyatt just wide receiver 3s, I don't think people would be thinking that if they had Mahomes and Burrow and all those types of players. So I just don't really like the valuation of wide receivers. I'm very excited about these talents if they can get the rest of it going in the passing game. We'll end it there. This is a long mailbag, but not too long, and we have a lot of questions to get to at some point, which we will. Thank you for tuning in. Keep it locked and loaded. More content coming. Game film review of the preseason game coming sometime early next week.